Let's talk about let's take a few steps back too and talk about, eighth grade. I read, as an eighth grader in about 2014, you were touted as a 13-year-old prodigy by ESPN. The article titled "Quarterback Most Likely to Succeed." Did that put a lot of pressure on you, growing up? Like, oh my gosh, I got to live up to these expectations.
I think the expectations and pressure were more felt by the people who were placing it on me. As far as myself,
Right.
way before that article was written, I held myself to a standard of excellence that was really instilled in me by my parents. And it was also backed by my faith. As a
Right.
Christian, I really felt that, excellence and walking in a way where I reflect my creator is something I take pride in. So in everything that I did, I wanted to maintain a level of excellence. As far as the outside noise, I still don't really listen to that to this day. And I
Right.
think it's one of my better qualities that has allowed me to get to this point without losing focus. So, I was very, gracious for that article. Obviously, all of the praise that I've ever received, but I've never done it for that. I think that just follows when you put in the work and have the focus and reach for your dream.
So my last question for you, and this has been fun, by the way, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this. So my last question for you is, what's next for Chase Griffin? Where do you see yourself going, and what's the future hold for you?
I would say, as far as the short term, these next 8 to 10 weeks are focused on getting my body ready. And I was pleased with how my body operated during this past season. But as always, there's such a big jump that I know I can make. And I'm excited to make it. I feel like I'm at a time in my body where it's really malleable and I can really turn into the type of athlete that I want to be in a way where I can dominate games both mentally and physically. And I'm excited to make that stride these next 10 weeks into spring ball.
And what I love about you is you're a humble guy. I mean, I've read so much stories, watched tapes and stuff like that, and seen you in your interviews, and it's awesome. Or how do you kind of keep yourself humble and just sort of keep moving in the right direction versus letting that all get to you?
I think the key is really not, honestly, not caring about what others think about you in that way, where how they feel about you in the moment does not measure who you are completely at all times.
Wow.
And who you are has nothing to do with how people view you in that moment. It was long written before you got here and it's long written after you get here. So I think the main thing was me turning into my faith, where
Yeah.
how I am, honestly, I don't believe any of us are doing it right. But I know that with my Savior and with God, who I need to be like. So as long as I'm pushing each day in my spiritual journey, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah. Or just the noise from the fans, and you get a lot of the talk and stuff. I mean, and that's a great quality of yours, is to be able to put that out. How do you put that out? How do you compartmentalize it and put that away so you can focus? Because a lot of people, even I see in the corporate world, they just let things really bother them. So how do you put that out of mind?
I think the one of the better things about me is I never really paid attention to that in the first place.
That's awesome.
And the best way to stop something is to never start it. And I never really got caught up in stuff like that just because I hadn't always received that type of praise.
Right.
Even after that article, there were times my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, freshman year at UCLA, probably this year at UCLA, where there's been a lot of people who really didn't believe. And if I did this to prove them wrong or to prove the people who are rooting for me right, that would be great. But that's not really what I'm about.
Right.
I'm about there's goals that I have and there's winning to achieve each day. Every single day when I wake up, I'm gonna get out of bed knowing that this is what needs to be attacked. And I'm not gonna stop on it regardless of what others say or feel that I've achieved.
So thinking back about high school football, obviously Texas high school football, that's got to be an amazing thing. A lot of pressure. What was that like? The experience of Texas high school football? You
There's
see it
really
in movies and stuff. Is it that big and that crazy?
there's really nothing like it. And I was lucky to come from a one high school town. in Hutto, where the whole town shut down Friday nights. And we have a little strip across the train tracks, across from the stadium that has, Home Depot, all types of appliance stores, food places, and that would be shut down.
Wow.
We probably have around 7 or 8,000 at our games, probably around 500 to 1,000 students standing up, not in the stands, around the gate. And it was really a blessing to play in front of a town that supported, but also see every week the town fed off that as a team. And we could really see how in Hutto's culture, where football was something that tied the culture to the youth, it showed that there was a reflective nature where when the team was better, the community did better. And it was really a blessing to be part of.
But what was that like without the fans, really?
I think it really helped us focus in the games on what was really important. And I think it also led to the teams having to rally each other and be our own cheerleaders. And I noticed that, all the teams we played this season, they were really cheering. You could really hear them. But I know that on our sideline, we were electric almost every game.
Right.
It was a great sideline to be on, be a part of, because no matter who's around us, all we need is all we got. And
Beautiful.
we were so excited and pumped for each other. We have something on a team called Mudita, and it's really celebrating vicariously through your teammates' success.
Awesome.
And we really reinforced it last season, but we really reinforced it this year, and it was a joy to be a part of.
That's awesome, Jim. So how do you prepare for games? What's sort of the method to, your madness, so to speak, where you get yourself in game mode, basically?
The key is really mindset. Everyone goes out there with a certain amount of skill, certain amount of, flashiness, something about themselves tells themselves they have the it factor. But the only way to really play like that is to have your mental right going into the game. So some guys are energy guys. They gotta be hyped the whole time. They gotta be rah rah.
Right,
That's not really
right,
my style, but I respect that. Every team needs some of those. And
right.
then there's some guys that are in the middle, and then there's some guys that are cool, where I'll be out there and I'll still be verbal and everything, but as far as my mindset, I'm almost comatose. I'm not thinking about too many things. I'm out there, what's my job, and however it goes on the play, I'm going to make sure that I'm working my plan.
Right.
You go in there trying to be too controlling, to this, and that, to pre-position to do something, it's not going to turn out the way you want. Because at the end of the day, it's a game. You got to go out there and have fun. And that's why during the week, you have to be 100% locked in, 100% prepared. That way on Saturday, you just go out there and use your training, have fun with it, let the juices flow.
Right. You execute and do your thing and hopefully come out with a W.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So what's a successful thing, let's say, in your life's journey, in your journey in football, that you learned, like one successful thing that you've learned that you're taking with you, continue to move forward.
I've learned so many things. I've had a blessing as far as having so many great mentors and people who have walked the path that I've walked, who've reached out and just said their little two piece. And I think the one thing that I learned was this person's gonna have this thing, this person's gonna have this thing. Like Deshaun Watson and Johnny Manziel
Right.
are going to have two starkly different ways of how they think about a certain play when they're playing it.
Right.
But the main thing is you have to find for yourself how you're going to play that. There's guys who are very skilled, guys who, have great talent, guys who have all this. But at the end of the day, it's about how you play.
Right.
And that's really what the ballers have. And it's signature to each one of them. And
Gotcha.
whether you notice it or not, there's some guys who stand out more than others just because of their personality. But if you're a cool guy, don't be trying to be in the huddle giving a speech before every drive, because that's
Right.
not your thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being yourself out there, and that's you have to walk in yourself in order to play well.
Oh, I love that. Walking yourself. That's really cool. That's awesome. So thinking about your career, what's one failure you can talk about that you learned from? Something that you just said, I really learned a good life lesson here, and it really has helped propel me to the success I've been having.
Mm. I mean, I think I honestly, I'm competitive, and that's the side of football that I really love because
Yeah,
it's a great sport to compete in. Every loss feels like a failure.
right,
So I would say I have the same feeling in every loss, which is how much more could I have done, or what if I had this play back or this play back. So
right.
I'd say the number one teacher is the pain that you feel in these losses.
Mm,
There's
yeah,
You're gonna feel the pain because you put in the work for it. And that's a good thing. If you could lose and not feel any type of way about it, that says something about your process. Maybe your heart wasn't in it. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a good self evaluation.
uh,
But the pain that you feel with every loss, every play that doesn't go a way that you know it could have gone or should have gone with your talent,
right,
then those are things you have to reflect on. Because most of the time, it's not the talent that gets you into trouble, it's minor stuff that can be worked on and refined in the training process.
right,
So I think one thing that I've learned is you have to look at everything as controllable. You can't look at things as blames. You can't look things, everything that you can control, you have to control 100%, and you have to find where
right,
you can control it. Just because as a quarterback, if you're not willing to accept responsibility or to play in a way where you feel responsible, then you're at the wrong position.
yeah. Wow. That's something. And so, what's it like playing for Coach Chip Kelly? I mean, I remember seeing him here, on the side with the Eagles. I'm from Philly and not too far away from Philly, and I loved his play calling and I loved his style. What's it like? Is it pretty cool?
I'm actually accustomed to head coaches who do call the plays,
Right,
and I think that I'm actually very lucky in that because there's a lot of guys, especially at the college level, who don't have that type of dynamic. So to
right,
have that all the way through high school to now is really a blessing. I would say in that dynamic, you really get to experience the game through the coach's eyes. And what I mean by that is we get the script 2 or 3 days before the game, we go through it,
right.
and we're in a game and coach rattles some off. I remember that was play 14 on the script. And
Wow,
it's really nice when you're able to go through the games, go through the script, and then you're in the game and you're just letting it flow, and you've already played the game in your mind. So playing for Coach Kelly with that dynamic is definitely a blessing. As far as the long term, I'm also focused in the academic side.
great.
I'm really excited about my internship that I've been in for about 4 months, that I still have about 5 more months to go in at
Oh, that's
Accelerated
awesome.
for America, where I'm the communications intern there. And I'm really soaking up a lot of knowledge about P3s and all types of investment banking and projects.
Oh, wow.
And it's exciting because it shows that the skill set that I'm building now is applicable to things that I think I'll have a passion for in the future other than football. So as long as I stay focused on both fronts, keep my family life good, which
Yeah,
is really priority to me, and my faith, which is my number one, I think I'm on the right track, and
that's
I'm
great.
optimistic.
That's awesome. And how do you balance that, with academics? Because obviously, you've got a lot of traveling, you've got a lot of, homework for football, reviewing previous games, watching tapes and things like that, and hanging with the coach and learning and stuff. How do you balance all that out?
It really just all goes to being excellent in everything. And I know school is a responsibility of mine, just like doing well in football is a responsibility in my eyes. So, regardless of what it is, I'm going to stay focused in it. And another way to stay focused is cut out all the fat. And so, I'm really only focused on about 3 or 4 things in my life that really have meaning to me, regardless of how broad they are. And as long as I keep chopping every day, I'm going to keep on making strides as long as I keep pushing myself to stay focused.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, this has been fun, Chase. I really appreciate you, taking the time out of your schedule again to come and talk about your career, your life journey. And I've learned a lot from you, and I just want to thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on the show. I enjoyed it. Four is up. Go Bruins, and God bless.
That's right. Everybody, Chase Griffin, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
So what was it about football that attracted you to the sport? What did you like about it most when you started playing it?
I think when I was younger, I just enjoyed watching the highlights on TV, and then playing it. I actually liked the physicality and toughness and how violent it was. It was pretty
Right.
good. Always playing soccer, I was definitely, violent out there on the field. I wanted to impose my will, and football was a place where you could really do that, and it was the name of the game.
Yep.
I think as I got older and really grew into the quarterback position, I realized that the position of quarterback really doesn't fit into some of the same themes that the rest of the game is predicated on.
Right.
So the the quarterback position's leadership, responsibility, the cerebral side of it, and then the execution and cleanliness of the game in a
Right.
game that is really about toughness and grit, I think is a great contrast. And I fell in love with that, fell in love with the work of being a quarterback. And I feel like it fit my temperament as an easygoing person who's pretty level headed, but also likes responsibility.
That's awesome. And yeah, you mentioned a great point about leadership.